Hello, this is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined today by Bill Hunker, but first by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike Jones.
Hey Dale, how you doing?
Thanks for joining us this evening, Mike.
Yes, and here's Bill.
Hello there, gentlemen. Good evening.
Hello, it's nice to have you here on Fridays. As you can see over my shoulder, this was a poster that I took and modified. This is not a Republican bull elephant facing off against a Democrat donkey. That's not our challenge here in this community. It's not one party against another party. It's the old boys network against everybody else. But part of what we're going to be talking about tonight is a rift, a small splinter but significant splinter caused in the Republican Party over this levy vote. And you see over here, over this shoulder, is one of the main causes of all of that turmoil. And he goes by the name of Bill Hunker.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Dale.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot,
Hunker
Bill.
and friends.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, none of the three of us, not one of the three of us, is a Republican. Oh, no, perish the thought. And none of us are Democrats. No, not in this county. Are you kidding me? No, we're all independents. And I don't mean members of the independent party, but we're all non-affiliated, right? And this was one of the things that the Courier had so much trouble with and other news media. Well, who's in charge of this anti-levy movement? Mike, tell them who's in charge of the anti-levy movement.
Well, I'm in charge of it, Dale.
Oh, man.
And Bill's in charge of it, and Dale's in charge of it, and we had a whole bunch of independent people who all were thinking, oh, here it comes again. We're going to have to get together to defeat these guys because they're planning on spending a whole lot of money, and that's exactly what happened. And thankfully, we had guys like Bill Hunker to come up with some of the best ammunition for fighting the levy that we've had in years.
There was Jim Rafferty that was involved in this. There was even Joseph Rice that was involved in this. There were a number of people who were involved. In a true grassroots, let me get up on my soapbox. In a true grassroots, real grassroots, authentic, that's a good word. In an authentic grassroots movement, there's no one person that's in charge, like was in charge of the completely independent, but actually controlled by the commissioners, a group, started by the commissioners, initiated by the commissioners, okay? At least they had the intelligence to say, commissioners, back off. You've got a super bad reputation. We don't want you involved in this thing. Too late. So there is nobody in charge.
I personally feel that the same people who kicked off the levy actually, it's nice to say that Keith Heck kicked it off, but I think the people who put the bug in his ear are the same people that were running this operation, the CUPS people, the SOS people. They're the ones who are saying, hey, do us this favor and whatever, and so they're the originators, I'm pretty sure, of the where the levy came from, but
behind the scenes.
Exactly, behind the scenes. And they had, they threw a lot of money at this. And you know what? It's amazing. You see a lot of this manufactured grassroots stuff now that you never used to see before. And it's everywhere. And you have to know, don't be intimidated by it. And just go out there and do the kind of stuff that we did. I think that this was a real good case study for people who are doing this in the future, because Dale and I had started doing what we were doing without any prompting from anybody else. Bill started this without any prompting from anybody else. Jim Rafferty started that without any prompting from anybody else. And it just so happened that all of our forces came onto the field at the same time, and we marched to victory together. It was fantastic.
Nicely put. Hey, but Mike, it looks like you're seated in a child's chair. Usually your head is up near the top of the bridge. I don't know what's going on there, buddy, but why don't you join us?
I'll tell you, Well, there's a couple of things happening here that were technical difficulties before the program. I lost my secondary monitor, so things are I had to juggle things around at the last minute. So I will try to make a couple of software adjustments to that so as to not be offending.
Now, what about you,
yes,
Bill?
I am at the kids' table tonight.
What about you, Bill? Did you lose your secondary monitor?
I never had a primary monitor to lose the secondary monitor.
So Bill
I'm
has
still
no
looking for a
idea
monitor.
what this looks like. He's just talking in the dark. He's sitting somewhere in a dark closet.
Yep.
I didn't know that about Bill. And
I tried
come out of the closet, Bill.
Yeah,
Yes.
oh,
Now,
we don't want to start that. That'll go like wildfire, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. It did with Simon Hare there for a while.
Yeah.
So one of the things we're going to do then is
that's better.
yeah, that's much better. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to play back what I think was the most tart interview of all on election night, and that was with Joshua Robinson. The guy was a real good sport about this, but we had a couple of questions to ask him, and it centers around people like, now we mention names in this show. Oh, you're not going to mention names, are you? Oh, I hate it when you mention names, especially mine. Alan Kubrick. Okay, so what had happened was the Republican Central Committee decided that they were going to have a vote to see whether the Republican Party in general in Josephine County, the Republican Party, was actually going to stop being run by tax and spend Republicans. I grew up as a conservative Democrat, conservative in spending, okay, and liberal in stay out of my bedroom. Not like there's anything happening there, but, you know, government keep out of my bedroom. So maybe I was an independent all along.
Speaking of coming out of the closet here.
Yes, but I always was told, well, then you're a Democrat like your parents. So I was conservative. I had never heard of tax and spend Republicans before. Well, rumors of them, but it was like a duck-billed platypus. I didn't think they existed until I came here. Who are these Republicans who vote for every levy that comes along? I get the law and order part. Okay, I understand that. But raise your taxes? Why? That seems like a wonderful idea. It does? Well, we can tax you into prosperity. You can? Who are these people?
Yes,
I like a football game where you go and there's two goalposts and they stand there.
Yes.
They're opposed to each other. What happened to that?
Yeah, this town is weird in that department. Really an odd thing.
Well, so we're all independent.
You're looking back, and generational almost.
Wow. So, okay. So that means Mike's getting older. So look, here's the thing. The Republicans got together at a Central Committee and they decided, now we had first heard about Harry Mackin and how he dealt with all this, and that I gotten feedback independently from two members of the Republican Central Committee months ago. And they had said that they had taken some kind of vote. It was on something or other. And Harry Mackin didn't like the results. But they took a vote. Hello, this is America. I grew up in America. Of course, admittedly, it was in the 1900s. But didn't we all go to school in the 1900s? So they took a vote, and Harry Mackin didn't like the results. So he took independent action, despite what the vote was. They were like, hey, Harry Mackin, what the heck do you think you're doing there, bud? Did he grow up in another country? I don't know. But that wasn't the America that I know. So fast forward to now, and the Republican Central Committee says we're going to put this up for the vote. And the people who didn't like that, the people who were pro-levy, they didn't want to take any kind of vote. Now, wait a minute. Of course we're going to take a vote. Oh, no, we can't take a vote. It's not right to take a vote. Hey, we're going to take a vote. So they took a vote. Well, nobody understands this vote. Of course they understood the vote. Well, everyone's confused. No, they're not confused. Well, it's totally illegal to take a vote. No, it's not. So what was the result of this vote? It was pretty obvious. The Republican Central Committee voted it was not just a simple majority. They voted overwhelmingly to say we don't like this levy. Well, there were people who were hopping mad. And Roy Lindsay, the current, see, this is what you get on this show. We mention names. Okay, like Bill Hunker, that awful guy with the sign. Okay, so they decided that that's what they were going to do. So, okay, so they put a sign in the window. The Republican Central Committee voted, they're opposed to the levy. Alan Kobrick, who's second in charge of the Republican Central Committee, he decided on his own, this is what they're telling us, to take the signs out of the window. Hey, Alan Kobrick, there was a vote, a free and fair vote. You lost, just like what's happening with the levy 9 times. You lost. So this is America. Sometimes you got to suck it up and say, you know what? We lost with the levy. We lost with this vote. We're Americans. We're proud to be so. Better luck next time. And then when the Republican Central Committee decided to put ads on CAJO saying, we have voted. See, remember, CAJO never reported that they had voted at all. That's CAJO's response. You just crush the opposition. You cover up the news. Alan Kobrick called over there, according to what they tell us, more than one source, and demanded that CAJO remove the ads. He did this on his own. Hello, Alan? What kind of Republican Party is this? So why don't you guys, if you have a comment, go ahead, and then we'll play the video clip or ask some more questions.
This isn't reflective of the Republican Party. This is reflective of Alan Kobrick and his hubris to do stuff like that. That has nothing to do. I wouldn't paint the party with that. That's these. I called them the 21 percenters, but it's actually I got the percentage off on the number of people in the local Republican Party who defected on this on the agreement that everybody had. And these people are really outspoken and arrogant and nasty, and it's just amazing the attitude that they've taken about this their disagreement. And you would never ever find this kind of thing happening in the Democratic Party. They'd exile them, So I think. And yes.
A lot of the split also was happening prior to this levy even coming up, as some of this happened last year even, and some of the changes, and there were personality conflicts, and I think that was beneath the surface of some of this at least. And then this was an open battlefield to kind of see who came out on top. And since they didn't come out on top the way they wanted, there was quite a bit of emotion there.
Yes.
They tried to cheat their way into winning. Really? Doesn't that sound like what happened with the levy? It's not Republicans versus Democrats. It's Republicans versus Republicans. And when they don't like the result of a free and fair vote, then they try to do stuff behind the scenes. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's dirty pool.
Okay, let's play this 8-minute interview. Just be patient with us, would you? 8-minute interview with the current head of the Republican Party, Joshua Robinson.
This would have been a totally different atmosphere if this result had been different.
Oh my gosh!
How depressing!
Oh, you should have. Did you hear it through your earbuds when I announced it?
I did.
Yes.
Everybody heard that. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Well, we have with us right now Joshua Robinson. He is the son of Art Robinson, but he's famous in his own right. He is the chairman of the chairperson, I suppose, to be non-sexist. He is the chairperson of the local Republican Party and took a brave stand in deciding to bring that issue to the Republican Central Committee and say, do you support this levy or not? There was a lot of controversy about that, Joshua.
There was, but 66% of our PCPs voted to
Get right up on that mic.
PCPs, he means precinct committee persons.
Yeah, he's not talking about drugs here.
Right.
They voted to oppose the levy, and that is in accordance with our bylaws, and we supported that, and I think it was very worthwhile. And we're very pleased with the outcome.
Well, we were there, thank you, and we weren't videotaping. Thanks a lot for that too. You voted in favor of it. And there were people who were saying during that vote, well, people were confused. They didn't know. They said that about the levy the last couple of times. Nobody understood the levy. I think they did understand the levy. What's your opinion, sir?
I think they understood the levy. Yes.
Yeah, and you know what? You would hope that perhaps local businesses and political parties and things of that nature would understand this is the undercurrent of the people in the county here. And how about not shoving this down our throat again?
And stop referring to it as the undertow. It's the undercurrent.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got a big task ahead of you, Joshua Robinson, because honestly now, there's been somewhat of a split in the party. I don't know if it's 4/5 and 1/5, but there's a split in the Republican Party, and of course you want party unity. What the heck are you going to do to regain party unity?
Oh, that's a good question, Dale.
Well, I don't think it's as bad as people would think it. Perhaps.
Of course he's going to say that. Come on.
Well, when you look at that, 66% voted to oppose the levy, and then the rest, they didn't take a position. They didn't vote not to oppose it.
Right.
They didn't vote in favor of the levy. They just voted not to take a position.
So probably, if you were to guess, and this would be a tough one to do, but of that 21% that didn't vote to oppose the levy, or I guess it was more. It was 40.
Didn't vote to oppose. Yeah, right, whatever that means.
So, what would you guess the in that group that were actually for the levy? That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. I probably know about 5 people that I could think of that were in support of the levy in our central committee.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's the other. This is the kind of show we have, Joshua.
Okay.
In case you didn't know, there's the other challenge. What happened to the rest of the Republicans who should have a backbone and stand up for what they think? Oh, nice answer.
Well, yeah, I mean that is kind of a toughie, but I think, what was the motivation behind not wanting to take a stand?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think some people didn't want to
alienate anybody.
They didn't want to alienate.
But that sounds like Democrats.
Yeah, but wait a minute.
There are those in the party that I know that were against the levy, that were against taking a position, because they believe that we should have a consensus in our party. But I believe that we vote for a reason, and we vote to take a position. And if the PCPs vote to take that position, we will stand by it.
Well, when the people vote too, I think we should stand by it. And how many times have we voted? How many times have we said no to a levy?
Yes, quite a few. But you know what? I respect that now. The party leadership here is they seem to be having a strong hand on this thing, and instead of going weak-willed and letting the minority run over the top of them. It's like, okay, let's take a vote, and the majority rules, and that's the way it ought to be. And I don't even think that they do that in the Democrat. They just tell them, here's what you're going to think, and they go, oh, okay.
Yeah, true. However, we all know that when a couple of people, including Bill Hunker, were invited to come in and make a presentation, that there were people in that group that were so angry about them making a presentation, they tried to stop them. They were I don't know, yelling, but they were trying to interrupt them, and they repeatedly, including Connie Roach, the assessor, repeatedly tried to stop your invited guests from making. What kind of group does that?
I don't know. I think
Good answer again.
Well, if they think in different ways. I'm not sure that we can understand always the way people think. But I think it's important for us to realize we are not against the sheriff. We're not against law enforcement. We want them to have the funds they need to do the job that they need to do. It's just the way this levy was done. It was there was a lot of money that wasn't going to the sheriff's department, and
We couldn't be sure where it was going to go.
No, you couldn't be sure
Right.
where it was going.
That's
Yeah.
the big deal.
And that's the big deal. You need to be upfront and show us exactly where the dollars are going to go and what it's going to be used for. And I think that's what a majority of our voters were upset about.
Right. And you know what? I think one of the biggest problems that we have is this allocated money issue. If there's some way that they could deal with, somehow just giving the money to the county as a block and let them fund law enforcement and let the pencil pushers, get the pennies.
I keep saying it's impossible. It's impossible.
Well, yes, but well, it isn't really impossible. You have to have the will to do these sort of things in order to get them done. But the idea that somehow the most important, and it's always like this, and it's for political purposes, they starve out the sheriff.
Yes.
And there's a reason for that, because they want to use that as a club to beat you over the head and get you to vote for the levy.
But that's what we're doing. We're starving out the commissioners, and we're going to use it as a club to beat them to death. Beat them into submission.
Yes.
Really, Joshua, you've been great in answering tart questions, and this is, you feel a little toasty on both sides now, bud?
Well, we're just going to move forward with what we believe is right.
He's such a good sport.
And I don't have a political career, so I don't care. So.
Oh. There you go. And I got to tell you something. When Dale says toasty on both sides, we have been riding this issue, like a low rent pony for months now, and I am burned out, and I am glad that this whole thing is over.
Are you tired of this? You know what starts tomorrow though? Campaign 2016, bud.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joshua Robinson.
Thank you, and thank you for all you have done.
Oh, we're happy to bring this with your help. We brought this from Republican headquarters live out to everybody. That's not been done before.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right.
All right.
Well, hey, and just incidentally, as I was recording the budget meeting today and that sending that audio over to you, I wanted to preview some of it, so I went back through some of it, and they were talking about this fund allocation thing, and Peggy Goodwin was bringing it up. She's pretty good in this whole budget situation.
She was excellent. Yeah.
And I heard you in there too, Bill Hunker, and you know what? And then Simon came in right after you and poo-pooed the whole taking money from one of the richest. This is just my perception, so correct me, anybody, if I'm wrong on this. But my perception is that Public Works they're the one that are floating in the black over there, and if we could pull some money off of them and throw it at the sheriff, that's a good thing.
Well, I don't know if you followed the whole thing, but what was very interesting to me with the meeting last night was that we have Peggy being very astute and very articulate about the need for the sheriff's funding versus the roads. And so it was actually the DA who was coming in for more money for deputy DA and secretary. So they were finagling and trying to find places to get that money from, and ultimately the Public Works budget came up. And so they worked around with that till to the point that they needed a motion, and she made a motion that $500,000 be moved over from the Public Works into the sheriff's office for patrolling, which is perfectly fine, and is a provision started in 12 in legislation that sundowns in its current form in January coming up. And so she said, we've kind of got a last chance to do this. I suggest we do it. So she made this motion. Well, then a whole discussion ensued about the value of having lots of money in the road fund in case of drastic emergencies, and we need this and we need that.
Yeah, I heard Simon saying that more people will get killed from bad roads if we divert that money from the road department over to law enforcement. I thought,
he
wow,
actually said that.
Yeah. There was
that was
not
an argument
quite a bit of reach
in favor of the levy.
Yes.
Well, what interested me was that they finally came to a vote, and the upshot of the vote was that Jim Brumback, who just finished working for about 8 months, pretty solidly with cuffs and with his religious organizations and his pastors and that whole thing, pushing very hard to have this levy go through. 2 days after it fails, he votes to go with the roads. And totally, he could have, with one yes, he could have given a minimum of $350,000 straight over to the sheriff.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is a sham that he did about there being a crisis in the sheriff's department. If there was a crisis, why in the world wouldn't he say yay on that?
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, you take Pat Fahey, who worked just the same length of time, maybe even longer. Pat Fahey said, I don't want to bring politics into this, but the people have spoken loudly, and they're asking us to think outside the box and do something creative. I vote that we do this.
Yeah,
so he went with Peggy.
Well, that's awesome. And you know what? I generally don't find myself in agreement with Pat Fahey either, but you know what? That sort of tells you something about the motivations of these people, that they're disingenuous about their intentions. They're not telling you the truth, and when it comes time for them, and this is an annual budget thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know what? If it's not working out next year, they could say, okay, forget that. We're not going to do that. But they had the chance to fund law enforcement, and they said no. You know why? Because it takes a little bit of that power out of that lever, gives you a shorter lever to be using on the people to force a little bit more money out of them via property taxes.
And another lesson from all this is Keith Heck especially
doing their own juices.
See, Bill can't hear me because there's a delay. You know this. You watch the show. Keith Heck especially and Simon Hare have been saying all along, those stupid people. I'm paraphrasing, but not by much. Why they think, why don't we just dip into that endless pile of money, which everyone seems to think that we have, and we don't, and there's no place for us to go, and it's absolutely impossible, and there's no solutions, and so this is why you have to raise your property taxes. Then the very next opportunity, it turns out, oh, guess what? There is this endless supply of money, and Peggy suggested taking one tiny part of it. And it's like, you'll see from the video that we put up, it's like out of $6 million, or maybe it was 8, she wanted $500,000 to be split up between most of it going to the sheriff and some of it going to the DA. So if the sheriff arrests somebody, we can actually do something with them with the DA. And they said no. 1, listen, this was disingenuous. 2, there is a supply of money. 3, we can borrow it out of that supply. It's specially set up specifically for, ready for this, patrols, because it was going to be spent on roads. And Salem says, well, roads, patrols, the same kind of, you can't spend it on admin people. Oh, no, what about the admin people? Shut up. Okay, we could spend that on patrols, but they don't want to do so.
Right.
Yep. No, and Dale, we until January, we don't have to pay that back. We can, but until January at least, that can be allocated over. It has to be used just for patrol, but it can be used, and it's only for 7 counties, and we're one of the 7 counties. Out of the 36, the others do not qualify for what could be ours and could have been ours since 12.
Well,
so how many times have they told you that this was a dire emergency? We're hanging on by our fingertips. There's absolutely nothing can be done. There's no other solutions. We don't have a supply of money from any other place. We just don't have it. And by the way, we never started this levy. We have nothing to do with it. How many times, really, not just our opinion, documented in their own recordings and their own documents, how many times do they have to flat out just look in your eye and lie to you before we all realize, you know what? They're liars. They're cheaters. And they really do have this available. And if it's an emergency that is so dire, and little children, think about the children, Mike, if that's the case, then why would they say, well, I understand roads, but even Peggy said, now, wait a minute, when you ask the people, what do you think the people would say? The people, those stupid people, like Art Harvey says, those morons. He did say that about us. Don't forget, he's running for election coming up. So we're trying to get Bill Hunker to run for, but I'm not patriotic. I don't want to do that. So,
oh my God.
Don't go doing that.
No, man. No, and you know what? I know what Bill's next thing really needs to be, and that is to assist in the push for good people. We need to replace all of these people who are a thorn in our side and keep jabbing us with levies constantly, and they're stupid inside the box thinking about things. We need to replace these people, and Bill is one to spearhead the campaign to round these people up. What do you think, Bill?
You got my attention and my interest in 16. 16, as I've said before, one of the reasons that I involved myself is because of this perfect storm that I saw coming, and so far we're on it. And that is that we lost Steve Rich, and then we lost Campbell, and we got Wally, and it allowed a crack in the rock where if we keep pounding on the wedge, I think we can break this thing open.
Right, and you know what? And we've had a few people pounding on it. We're widening the crack up a little bit, Bill. And I'm on board. I know Dale's on board. You're on board. If we can just build this and get a whole swath of us with sledgehammers beating on the rock, we'll make some gravel.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we get Andreas
Black. This is the first time we've had in 22 or 3 years, I think, that this opening has happened, and we are very wise to. We're only a year away from a May primary.
Right.
This is the beginning of campaign 2016.
To amass people and get them faced in some direction.
Indeed.
So it's there's a lot to be done, but I'm with you. To make a shift in 16 is of primary importance for this county.
Absolutely.
Okay, so one of my contributions to campaign 2016 is to point out some of the wrong things that happened with this budget committee. So, Mike, would you please play the confrontation that I had, and there was absolutely not a single peep of an answer. You could have heard a pen drop, but they were not going to answer any of these questions. Here's my contribution to the ending of the budget committee meeting.
Dale Matthews, Grants Pass. You were all solemnly warned about what the rules are about a budget committee. And you were probably told that if you broke those rules, that this whole process might be brought under some kind of scrutiny, that it could potentially be invalid. So you might want to know that half of your members have violated that law. And 2 different meetings. 2 commissioners, Simon Hare and Keith Eck, were talking about the budget in a meeting in the little back room, outside of your presence. And all 3 commissioners were doing it at a separate meeting. And in addition to that, I'm pretty sure the finance director knew that if he's up and awake while they were proceeding to do that. So they'll say later, oh, that Dale Matthews, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just a liar, as J.J. Schofield said. Mr. Matthews, you lie all the time. To which I responded, you're a good public servant. So we have the videotape. The county has the record. It's a matter of public record. Therefore, this budget committee and its conclusions could possibly be invalid. Everything you've done, because you, Mr. Brungbach, obeyed the rules. The commissioners did not. They broke state law. Last time I was up here, I said that when I went to the elected officials compensation committee, I had a question and J.J. Schofield tried to stop me from asking the question. Your budget officer, your finance director, said, well, the questions aren't allowed at those. Well, I sure look stupid because I was asking a question at a meeting where questions weren't allowed. Yeah, I look pretty stupid, except that that's a false statement. I have the videotape, of course I'm the only one with a videotape, of all of those meetings for the last couple of years. Questions have always been allowed. I was allowed to ask the question, someone was just trying to stop me from asking the question. And I did ask my question. So then you need to ask yourselves, can we trust our budget officer because he did not tell you the truth? Now you're not going to question this because rubber stamp committees do not question things. Last time we were through this, Simon Hare had mentioned at a public meeting that the sheriff had been padding his budget. And when I brought that to the budget committee, you weren't interested in hearing about that. And I think 5 out of 6 of you were there. You don't want to answer that question. Padding the budget committee, I don't see any match, do you? Go ahead and approve this. Don't worry about breaking the law. Don't worry about whatever I said. You can just go look at the records for yourself or listen to the official county recordings, and you can see for yourself what actually happened.
Gentlemen?
There you have it.
Yes.
Yes.
They are not allowed to talk among themselves outside of the presence of the budget committee once the budget is being considered. And not only did the commissioners talk among themselves, but Keith Heck actually instructed a county employee to take action on their illegal conversation and go, as he put it, lobby the budget committee to convince them of what the commissioners had decided behind in the little back room. That's a textbook example,
So, Dan,
gentlemen.
if they were to invalidate the budget that they came up with, what would have to happen? You'd have to get a whole new set of committee members and do the thing over, or would the same people do it over again? How would it? What would be the result of the invalidation of what they've just finished here?
Do you want an honest answer?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Hell would have to freeze over.
Yes.
They are never
Well, let's say
going
that
to
hell
invalidate
froze over.
anything.
Yes.
It doesn't matter that half of their members were breaking the law. It doesn't matter to them. They weren't even questioning when Simon Hare had said that the sheriff was padding his budget. It's the budget committee. They weren't interested in hearing that. Not at all.
Right,
So,
but let's just fantasize here with me for a second.
That sounds like fun.
That the state says, okay, you're right about that. That's invalid. You guys got to start this whole process over again. How would you envision that being any different? If they met some culpability, what would the result be? After that, what would happen?
I have an opinion, but maybe we should also ask Bill Hunker. What do you think should happen if 3 of the members have violated the law, Bill?
That sounds like we need to get Wally Hicks on the line.
Yes.
I certainly have no idea from a legal standpoint, but I would think from just a kind of a moral standpoint that they should not be allowed in on the process a second time. It would have to go through again, and I don't know whether they'd be replaced with other committee members ad hoc for a one shot or and none of that matters, what I think anyway, because there's got to be laws. Somehow this has happened in the past, or they wouldn't have made the ruling. And who knows how they fix that. If they did, maybe somebody sues somebody. That seems to be popular.
Right.
And look,
Yes.
gentlemen, this is not up for debate. This is a matter of the public record. They actually did do this. And besides just talking about it, which they're not allowed to do, it is against state law, they actually tasked one of their minions to go and lobby the rest of the budget committee. This is a textbook case of illegality. That's the commissioners we have. And to be honest, nobody's going to do anything about it. We have to wait actually about a year and a half, and then we get rid of two of the commissioners, and we replace them with honest people.
That's what I think Dale's making a good point here. We're just making the case for removal here and replacement with some decent people. I think the biggest trick is going to be to get 4 or 5 good people to step up to the plate and do what needs to be done to go through this whole process, because these other good people, they have lives of their own. They're involved in businesses. They have things going on, and they're going to have to give some of that up for a period of time to go into public service, and that's going to be a tricky deal for them. And I just hope we can get 4 or 5 good people.
Yeah.